Live.
Are we live now? Okay.
We are live.
Just click that again and I'll be off live, right? See, Randall's, you can't see him on the screen, but he's giving me a block of instruction because when we got off last time, everyone heard our conversation. It was good conversation, but we don't want everybody to hear anything. Welcome, Facebook Live.
Right,
We're
right.
on for another week. For those of you who do know, thank you, Randall, so very much for helping us. This is Pop Barnes Health and Community Tip for the Week. We're on every Monday morning from 10 to 10:30 for the next, 40-some weeks, I guess now, because we've got, 9 programs here. And so it's just, you want to know something? We've gotten accustomed to being live with all of you who are viewers. And each week we have some really, really, really good information. And for some reason, I just got blanked off the screen. I don't know whether we're still on or not. Let me see. Yes, we are. Okay.
We're on.
We're still on. And for some of you viewers, Pop Barnes is going to be learning computers. And I'm fortunate enough to have so many people help us. But we have so much fun coming on Facebook Live because each week we have such good community partners and good information from our integrative health partners. And so we have here Ms. Susan Gallagher, part of our integrative health partners. Reverend Lowell Client, Dr. Client is ill this morning, so we just need to keep him lifted up in prayer. And we, as I said, we come on every week from 10 to 10:30, and we always have some good information. And so this is Ms. Susan Gallagher. Susan, you introduce yourself to our Facebook viewers, and then you can introduce our very, 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 very special guest this morning, who is going to be talking about a really good topic, one that's always in the news. It's bullying. So Susan, introduce yourself.
Good morning, Susan Gallagher with New Horizons Behavioral Health. I'm a Director of Development, Marketing, and Community Relations, wanting to remind everybody that there is no health without mental health. And so glad to be here with our Facebook friends and family this morning. We've got Katie Wright with us. Katie is a licensed master's level social worker, LMSW. She is also the clinical outpatient director for our services in the southern counties that New Horizons serves. That would be Stewart, Quitman, Randolph, and Clay counties. And Katie is also the Southern County Director for our Georgia Apex project, which provides school-based mental health services. And she's the subject matter expert today that's going to talk to us about bullying. And it's more than just something that children go through. It's more than that. I'm going to turn it over to Pops and Katie to lead us in the conversation.
Well, let me just tell you something there, because now I want to tell you, Katie, what Susan just did just now, because when she mentioned the schools, so I'm just going to say we're going to have you come back, because I know you have a wealth of information. And you want to know something? We have many parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, like my wife, May, and I, that you can give some information. So she really like roped you into another program, Katie. That's what she did. But Katie, take a little bit of time and just tell our Facebook viewing audience a little bit about yourself.
All right. I'm, like she said, I'm Katie Wright. I am down in the southern counties, and that's where I was born and raised. So my heart is for rural mental health and the people in the rural counties. I'm married and have 2 beautiful children. And yeah, I love life and I love serving others, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you, Pops.
And Katie, you mentioned something. I will tell our viewing audience, because we have a wide viewing audience. This is one of the purposes of Pop's Health or Community Tips for the Week, and why I am coming out here weekly, because the Bible says my people perish for lack of knowledge. And Katie mentioned the counties. The counties have so very few resources. So the only way to really meet and their needs is by having a program like this here. And so that's what we're here for. And we're so happy to have you to come and talk about a subject And I went through your slides, Katie, and I learned so much. I was educated so much about bullying. And so I'm going to have you control the slides. This is the format of the show. If anyone has anything to say, we just call your name. So if I have a comment, I'll say Katie, and then I know that while your slides are on the screen, you're not on there. So that'll give you time to get off the screens for me to ask you the question, and then we can commence with your slides. And so you have some very, very, very good slides. And so let's turn it over to you. I'll turn it over to you now. Bullying awareness, impact on children and teens.
Yes. I will go ahead and get started. Y'all can see it, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
All right. Just wanted to make sure. So the first thing that is important is that we establish what is bullying. So many times I hear the word bullying used out of context, but also I hear kids being kids, or they're just being mean, used in the place of bullying. So when I looked up to just really dig into what is bullying, the definition that continued to come up is that it is when someone hurts or scares someone repeatedly and intentionally. And if you see the picture, there's a picture of racquetball. And when racquetball is being played, the purpose is to continually hit that ball up against the wall repeatedly and intentionally. That's the purpose of racquetball. And so that was just a picture that came to mind, is that when bullies attack someone, is that they're doing it repeatedly and intentionally over and over and over. So bullying is not a one-time mean thing. It is an ongoing process. And it's also involves an imbalance of power, whether it's a larger person to a smaller person, whether it's racial dynamics, whether it's religion, whether it's difference in gender or sexual identity, just different things. There's an imbalance of power that exists.
So looking at your slide, what it says is bullying is more than just being mean, more than just kids being kids. When someone hurts or scares someone repeatedly and intentionally, bullying involves an imbalance of power. So it's a matter of someone trying to be in control of someone else. Is that right?
Right. Yes, sir. It is a power struggle. I'm better than you, I'm bigger than you, and you're going to be lower than me. So it's when someone's trying to put themselves above someone else and enforce control and power over someone else. And a lot of times we see that imbalance of power and that power and control, and we'll go over it a little bit later. That is a characteristic a lot of times of a bully that will carry on throughout their life. And then you start seeing more of abusive relationships and things as someone gets older.
Wow.
Right.
So there are many types of bullying. There is physical, verbal, social, and cyberbullying. And a lot of times when we think of bullying, we think of those kids on the playground hitting or kicking.
Right.
The movie A Christmas Story comes to mind, where the little boys are out there just constantly picking on the other little boy, and finally he just jumps and starts, hitting him back. And really that's not what solves bullying. But we see physical bullying, and then verbal is more of the name calling, the insults, teasing, racist remarks, and verbal abuse. The social is more of excluding someone from an activity, mimicking them, spreading rumors about them to others, just doing something to inflict embarrassment and humiliation. And then cyberbullying. And this is one that we hear more of lately. It doesn't mean that the others do not exist. They definitely do. But we also know that cyberbullying is big now with technology. While we know technology is wonderful, this is how we're able to do what we're doing today is because of technology. We also know that it has its downfalls. And so
Right.
Yeah.
we see these kids the thing with cyberbullying is it follows you everywhere.
And
And Katie, this is what I hear so much about lately because of technology. So many I saw it was a story about a girl that was just cyberbullied so much that she committed suicide, and that was horrendous. And just like you said, now with all this technology, it's good to have all this technology, but one of the downfalls of it is that with the cyberbullying, it covers so many people now at one time. And so that is really what is really so devastating for a lot of the teens, and really not only the teens, because I saw a program where even senior citizens in senior centers were being ostracized and whatever. And so this bullying is really, really, really something nowadays.
there's with the verbal bullying, there's also microaggressions where somebody may not say something that seems overtly bullying, but like, oh, you dress so well for a fat girl, or I didn't think somebody as tall as you would move so well. Those microaggressions that people can come across. So it doesn't have to be something where it's outright. It could be those compliments that aren't really a compliment when you look at them.
What they call backward compliment. I think that's
exactly.
what they say.
Yeah, they're calling them microaggressions now.
Microaggression. I've learned something, y'all, folks. I'm learning all this new technology, this new verbiage. So they call it microaggression. Mm-hmm. Microaggression.
Yes,
yeah.
Okay, can we go to the next slide?
Yes, sir. And one other thing, as I'm moving on about bullying and the cyberbullying, is that it is so quickly spread and continues to spread and hard to stop. And once something's posted, it's
yes,
pretty much there. It doesn't go away.
And that's the devastating part of it, is the fact that once it's posted, I mean, it stays forever. People, what they copy it and they forward it and all that. That's what makes it just so harmful and so hurtful and so devastating as well.
Yes. Lifetime impact. We know that. Excuse me. We know that bullying is something that carries on over the lifetime of someone. And this says, often the effects of bullying can last long after the bullying stops. Some who are bullied never fully recover, and some bullies never start hurting others. And that's what I said a while ago. A lot of times the characteristics of a bully, that power control, inflicting hurt and pain on someone else, that carries over a lot of times into adult behavior that we see in abusive relationships, domestic violence, and other things. 6 out of 10 children who are identified as bullies in middle school are convicted of a crime by the time that they reach 18.
Oh, wow. Really?
So 6 out of 10 kids who are bullies, who identify as being a bully to others, are often convicted of a crime by the time that they are 24.
So this is really impactful.
Yes, sir, very much so. And then we see that the impact of being bullied is a lot like PTSD in a way, post-traumatic stress disorder. We see that trauma is something that affects someone and changes how they view things and how they feel long term. So for someone who is continually being degraded and put down by others, that affects that person. We see that strongly affects their self-esteem, and for a lot of women then leads them to a path of being involved in abusive relationships, as well as being involved in drug and alcohol, and having poor self-image, and can lead to eating disorders.
Wow.
And Susan, you know what this reminds me of? This is reminds me of the ACEs.
Yes, exactly.
We
Those
talked
adverse.
about that, where you can see the and the connection, the interconnection of
Yes.
all of this here.
Right. And bullying is listed as one of the ACEs, not a one-time bullying, but like Katie says, that consistent bullying, that consistent pressure, that's considered an adverse childhood experience.
Right. And that's why when I went through the slides, one of the things that hit me, I said, and you mentioned it, Katie, when you says this is like PTSD. It's a trauma. And, you know, so one reason why I want to have another program on ACEs and bullying is the fact that people, after we did the program on ACEs, a lot of the individuals said, you want to know something? Now we understand when they talk about the generational curses, because what it is just passed down from generation to generation. And unless some type of intervention is done, then it's self-perpetuating.
Yeah. And I want to share something that kind of goes along with this lifetime impact, is that this morning I was actually supposed to come to Columbus, but my daughter wasn't feeling well, so she stayed home from school, and she asked me what I was having to do because I told her she needed to be quiet. And I asked her, I said, what do you think is the main thing people need to know about bullying? What is the main thing? And she said that each time you call someone a name or do something ugly, it's putting a crinkle in their heart.
Oh.
She said once you put a crinkle in someone's heart, it doesn't go away.
You're right. Look at that. That, you want to know something now? That is really a visual impact right there. Could you put that up? Look at that. Because when you do crinkle it, look at that. I'm so glad. You want to know something? There used to be a show many years ago, Katie, way before you thought about being born. And this guy used to say, kids say the darndest things. And he always used to end the program by saying, out of the mouth of babes, sometimes comes gems. And so your daughter gave a gem. She gave a gem. Because that is something that, you know, you could visually see something like that.
Very
but you know
profound.
something? It's very profound. Something like that is extremely profound. And people carry things like that. And that's why your statement at the beginning of the program was, say it again, Susan, about when you're talking about health, you cannot talk about health unless you include mental health.
There is no health without mental health.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Boy, I'm telling you, listen, now I'm going to tell you something now, Katie. What we did in the Barnes family, when one of the little ones gives us a gem, we took them to, I can't advertise, well, this is my show, I can advertise. We took them, it was a trip to Krispy Kreme or something, place like that, to get a reward for something like that now.
Yes. Well, my baby loves Krispy Kreme.
Can we go to the next slide?
Yes, sir.
Who does this impact?
So this impacts everyone. Bullying knows no boundaries. While some people are more susceptible to being a victim of bullying, bullying can affect everyone. Rich, poor, black, white, Asian, those who are disabled, those who are not, also members of the LGBTQ community. It affects everyone. So bullying knows no boundaries. It's
no boundaries. It affects everyone, every class, every ethnicity, everyone bullying affects.
yes.
And now you mentioned the LGBTQ community. I know that a very good friend of mine, Harry, who is my webmaster, he came to council and he spoke about, he saw when Susan and Andrea came down. And right after they came down to council and was talking about integrated health, Harry verbalized, he said, you know, the LGBT community was a community was many times was overlooked and not that much was talked. And so I'm so glad that when you mentioned it just now, when you said knows no boundaries, that it has impacted the LGBT community. So many of the individuals who were searching for identity have been afraid to come out and say something. I'm so glad that these times like now, that this issue is coming to the forefront. Susan, you will get ready to say something.
Yes, I wanted to say our children, our middle school children, our high school children that feel they may be LGBTQ need to have a safe space. If
Yes.
they're bullied at school, they need to have a safe space at home. And it's so important for parents to be nurturing of their children in all their expressions of their identity.
Right. And Katie, when I said that Susan drafted you, that's what she did, because that is something I would love for you to come back when you mentioned that you're into the schools, because the schools are areas where children should be able, if they can at home, they should be able to express their feelings at home. But a lot of times, the only time that they can express it is when they go to the schools, or this is the blessing of teachers and counselors that can recognize that a child is struggling with an issue. And so that's one area that when we invite you to come back, I'd like you to speak about some of the issues that you are confronted with in the school system.
Okay. We can make that happen.
That would be a real blessing to some of our Facebook listeners. Okay, can we go to the next slide?
Yes, sir. So some of the effects of bullying, we see that not only the individuals who are being bullied, but also the bully, him or herself, are at increased risk for depression and anxiety, often have difficult time sleeping. There's lower academic achievement and a higher rate for dropping out of school. And then also those who are targets of bullying and engage in bullying behavior are at higher risk for both mental and behavioral problems than those who are only the bully or only being bullied. So a lot of times we see that for someone who is being bullied, in turn, they will sometimes bully others. And the bully themselves, oftentimes, if you look into the root of why this child or adult is bullying others, you will see that there has been something that has impacted their life earlier where they now feel that they have to have some kind of power or control over someone else to try to fill the void that they have.
Right.
A lot of times they are a victim of bullying themselves or abuse.
And when I got to this slide over the weekend, it took me a bit to wrap my it took me a little bit to wrap my head around this here, but you explained it just now adequately. And for someone to be so tormented that they feel that they need to act out their aggression on someone else, it's really something. When I came to that slide, it took me a while to wrap my head around that the mechanics, the dynamics of something like that,
Right.
that it can affect a person to the extent that they feel the need to share their pain on someone else, essentially.
It goes back to that question we had with ACEs, where we need to change the question and not say, what's wrong with you, but what happened to you?
Exactly.
And what has happened to you to make you want to bully someone?
That is exactly right, Susan. You hit the nail on the proverbial head on that one.
Yes, and I will say part of what we see in some of the schools and things is a lot of times we'll receive referrals for a child who is being bullied versus a referral for the child who is doing the bullying. And this is a vicious cycle. So sometimes in order to stop that cycle, we have to go to the root. And so we need to be able to also work and counsel and try to help that child who is doing the bullying, because they're having issues too. It's not just they're being so mean and that they need to stop, but there's something deeper going on with that child. We also know that there's a negative impact on self-esteem and self-worth. And this is pretty point blank. I mean, when you're told that you're nothing over and over, it starts taking a toll on you believing it. The negative impact on relationship with friends and family and altogether just socially impacted. A lot of times when kids are being bullied, long-term effects is they have a hard time trusting anyone, trusting
Right.
or trusting adults. So this impacts long-term relationships when one is bullied. And it also impacts their physical health. We know that kids who are bullied oftentimes report more headaches, stomach aches, and we also know that that is a sign of anxiety. A lot of times in kids, anxiety and depression forms itself in physical aspects. So here are some statistics. 1 out of 5 students report being bullied. And we want to remember that these are just what's reported. So the numbers are higher because there's a lot of kids who aren't going to report it. Affects boys and girls. Boys are more likely to be physically abusive or bullied, versus girls are more likely to spread the rumors and exclude girls from other activities or things. Of those who reported bullying, 13% were made fun of, called names, or insulted. 13% of those were also subject of rumors, 5% physical, and 5% excluded from activities on purpose. So we see that there's a higher percentage of those who are just being made fun of and called rumors, made rumors about. And I think some of that could be contributed to social media, is why that percentage is higher now than probably what it was years ago before we had cyberbullying.
Right.
So then where does this occur? And this is based on school most of the time. So 43% is in a hallway or stairwell, 42% is in the classroom, 27% in the cafeteria, 22% outside of the school grounds, 15% online or in a text message, 12% in a bathroom or locker room, and 8% on the school bus.
You know, Katie, this just shows you just how pervasive something like this is.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And that it was surprising to me that 42% occur in the classroom. So you think 42% is occurring where there should be and probably is an adult present. And then 46% of kids say that they report this to adults at school.
You know, Katie, when I saw that 46% of kids say they report this to adults at school, what about the other percentage, 50-some% that don't? And that's where, to be honest with you, that's where professionals in the school are so beneficial that can recognize signs. My daughter is, she's, I'm trying to think of what she's a certified counselor. And she spent a lot of time with children in the military. And I recognize when I was in the military, when I would call home, my children would get on the phone and get off. And a lot of times I didn't understand that. But when I got out and went to nursing school, I realized that was their defense mechanism because they wanted to, but it was hurtful to hear my voice and not being able. And, you know, that's where that dynamics where a counselor could come into the school and recognize signs for children who are going through things like that. So even something like that, that military kids go through, to have adults recognize that they're struggling with something, but just don't know how to verbalize it. And Susan and I, prior to the program, had a conversation about that. And that's why I'm so glad Susan mentioned you. And we're going to schedule you to come back on to talk about some of these things that a lot of us adults really don't know about. Okay. Susan, you will get ready to say something. I could tell you'll get ready to make a comment.
No, I was going to keep quiet, but yes, that's building that emotional vocabulary in children.
Yeah, that emotional vocabulary. Okay, we go to the next slide.
Yes, and we also see that suicide and bullying are tied together. We know that individuals who report frequent bullying of others and individuals who report being bullied right, increased risk of suicidal behavior or self-interest behavior, and that there is a strong association between the two. And a lot of times other factors are playing in, such as depression, violent behavior, or substance abuse. But we also know that depression, violent behavior, and substance abuse are also related to bullying. So once again, we see that vicious cycle occur.
I would like to interject a statistic at this time. The number one cause of death for children in the state of Georgia is accidental deaths. The number two cause of death for children in the state of Georgia, ages 10 to 17, is suicide. Suicide.
Ages 10 to 17.
10 to 17. Number two cause of death in Georgia. It's the number three cause of death for children in Alabama, ages 10 to 17. We need to know what's going on with our children and be aware of it.
Yes, we do. We do know. And I'm going to just be honest with you. That's alarming.
Yes.
Those statistics are extremely alarming. Could you repeat that again for our Facebook viewers?
Sure.
Susan.
The number two cause of death for children ages 10 to 17 in the state of Georgia is suicide. The number three cause of death for children in Alabama ages 10 to 17 is suicide. These are two words that should not go together. Children and suicide are two words we should not put together.
And you want to something, and that's exactly right. And Katie, this opens up a door of discussion that we can just touch on now. But one of the reasons why I want you to come back as a trained social worker, because this obviously is a huge problem. And when I was going through the slides, I saw this right here, that quote by Frank Outlaw. It says volumes. It really speaks volumes, where it says, watch your thoughts, they become words. Watch your words, they become actions. Watch your actions, they become habits. Watch your habits, they become character. And watch your character, for it becomes your destiny. Yeah, there has to, with those alarming statistics, and this I'm posing to you, Katie, and to Susan, for us to just speak about just for a bit and cause some discussion in the minds of our Facebook viewers. How do you go about attacking this here? When you figure 10 to 17, that's a wide swath of age of children. How do you go about something like that? When I saw this quote that you placed in here, it has to start somewhere. It has to, with children watching the actions of their parents or actions of adults, or where do we start trying to remedy this situation? 10 to 7, you're right.
And 17.
The word child and suicide should not even be mentioned in the same sentence.
Right, they shouldn't go together. From my perspective, we start with awareness of the problem. We have to be aware that this problem exists before we can even address the issue. So us getting this word out, that maybe people will be take action now that they know the statistics around childhood suicide.
Because that's shocking. I'll just be honest with you. That is shocking. Katie?
And I think you brought up a very valid point, and it gets to it in the slide as well, but that as adults, we need to be modeling to our kids' behavior. And these kids need to know that there is a safe place that they can go to. There's a safe adult. Suicide is someone feeling like there's no other way, that there's no hope left, there's no other way out, and we need to be that safe place for these. We need to be a safe place for others. And I personally feel like, as an adult, as a mother, that is important for us as adults to be a safe place for our children and for other children. It takes a village to raise these children.
That's exactly right.
We just need to wrap our arms around them and love them and instill hope and encouragement and safety into not only children, but into each other, and to really just be there.
You mentioned a word that's
There.
really, really, really important, is modeling.
Mhm.
And modeling behavior, because kids are blank slates, really. Kids are really blank slates. And I think that what you said, Susan, is extremely important, is awareness. And also what you said, Katie, modeling behavior, showing kindness to each other so kids can see that bullying is not the way you're to behave. I mean, that is, it's just like you just threw, I just came out of a sauna and you threw cold water on me. It just shocked me, Susan, with those stats. So Katie, we're going to in our scheduling, we're going to have you come back and just talk about, just use your experience, talk about some of the things that you've seen with children and some things that we as adults can do to reassure children, to give them self-esteem. If you could talk about, in the next time you come, about signs that we can recognize with children that we as non-professionals don't really know, things to look for, that parents can look for, because parents should be able to see that something's awry in their own child. They should be able to see markers or signs, that telltale signs that they can use, that they know that they need to do some type of intervention. You know, you see on TV all the time the intervention with substance abuse. There needs to be some that we can use, interventions that we as adults can see with children. So we're going to pick your brain. Susan has already drafted you, Katie. It came from Susan's mouth. You heard her here. So we're drafting you for another. Susan's looking up like this here. We're drafting you.
I got some blanks on the schedule. I'm filling in already. Katie Wright.
That's exactly. Well, listen, we're going to the end of the program. I think we got one more slide. You have one more slide, Katie, that you need to put up?
I think so.
Yes.
So,
Slides, how to get in touch with y'all. Oh, no bullying
Yes.
zone. There we go.
no, we have no bullying. And we talk about that. We got to instill hope and support and worth and encouragement back into these kids, and addressing the root cause. We've talked about that. And to be a modeling adult for these kids, that, and also that bullying doesn't just occur in kids, but adults are guilty too. And
That's exactly right.
if we're going to allow hate and insults to come out of our mouths, we don't need to be shocked when our kids act this way. So we need to self-reflect what comes out of our heart and out of our mouth ourselves. I could go on and on that one. And this was the quote you read. But ultimately, our thoughts, they become our character, and our character becomes our destiny ultimately. And the last thing, how to get in touch with us. So again,
the most important thing now, Katie, we're going to have to let our viewing audience know how they can get in touch with you, and get in touch with Susan, and get in touch with Andrea, and all you good folks for New Horizons Behavioral Health. So I noticed I'm going to let you speak.
Okay, so again, I'm down in the southern counties, which is Randolph, Stewart, Quitman, and Clay County. And our office number is 229-366-0906. We also provide Apex school-based mental health services in some of our schools down here in the county. And you can also get in touch with us about that on the same number. If your kids go to any of these schools, or you feel like your kids need any services, or you have questions, or for yourself, we're here to help you. We want to be a light to you and help you during these hard times. I always say that there's no reason for anyone to go through difficult times by themselves when we're here to help you.
Exactly.
So,
And you're located at 91 Villanova Street in Cuthbert, Georgia, 39840, 229-366-0906. Katie, I want to thank you for being our special guest. And I also want to thank Susan for roping you in to come back again and give some of this good education and awareness. So we really appreciate you. And I'd like to say to our Facebook viewing audience, it is such a joy for Susan and I and Reverend Dr. Clyde and Andrea Winston to come with you all every week. We look forward really to meeting with you every Monday morning from 10 to 10:30. It's a joy, and we hear so much. We get so much feedback from you. Please call us, continue calling us, contacting us, because it lets us really feel good inside, knowing that we're bringing to you information that you really want to hear. And until next time, as I always say, please be good and kind to yourself because God loves you. God bless you now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie. And I will
You're
try
still
to do
live,
this
Pop.
here. I think I'm looking at, I'm going to go up here like Randall said and hit that and hit it again.